Today we're having the wonderful book of The Which Way Tree by Elizabeth Crook. And Bill Hensley will be doing that. And Bill does a lot for us here at our meetings. And most of you already know him, but I'm just going to repeat a little bit. He was, for 23 years, he was one of our city architects. And so he's an architect. He's also a designer, an artist, a musician, and a speaker. And he is now retired and has many hobbies, many of them related to music. And he likes to improvise songs on the piano and on the guitar. He also is active in the Toastmaster Club.
Consider the heart of a mass murderer, a hunger to hurt beyond satiation, and the vengeful effect on its victim survivors. It was a birthday party for a little sister in the South Texas Hill Country. Maybe a little hunting, certainly enjoying the familiar outdoors with family and friends. Big Brother and his buddy decided to go camping at a nearby cabin. They took off at noon and never got there. A chief deputy of Bandera with friends on the search radioed in he had seen a huge mountain lion trailing, quiet and ghost-like, through the canyon where the boys disappeared. Eventually, a helicopter surveillance spotted them camping out. One rescuer told the mom, "I don't mean to scare you, ma'am, but when I got there, that cat had its eyes on your boys." This is a true story. How would you process it? His mother, writer Elizabeth Crook, spent a year Googling mountain lion attacks, combined that with her love of 19th century Texana, and wrote a book about it. Having undergone and reinforced that visceral experience, it reads true. The Which Way Tree is set in the Texas Hill Country just after the Civil War, maybe during a little bit too. It begins as court testimony by 17-year-old Benjamin Shreve about crimes against civilians by a rogue Confederate soldier, Clarence Hamlin. But Ben, a natural raconteur, has a lot more story and context to tell than the circus judge and jury have time to absorb. So he is eventually asked to mail it to the judge as a series of letters. Each letter consists of an introduction to the judge about what's going on, along with his official testimony as the chapters of this book. The book begins in the courtroom. In Bandera, Judge E. Carlton presiding. Could you hang your hat over on the hook by the door there? I prefer to keep it here, sir. Judge announces, "We are trying to ascertain the names of which men took part in the hanging of 8 men 3 years ago on Julian Creek. Do you know why you're here? On account of the men I found dead on Julian Creek? Very well. Now, the basic facts of the murders have been established, but we're trying to verify the names of those who took part. I can tell you Clarence Hamlin was one of them that did, sir. That's your testimony, but if it's true, we have to get at it in a logical way. You say you had been hunting and fired at a deer and missed, and it pitched a fit. What happened next? I heard coyotes yipping. I thought it might be Comanches, so I laid down. Maybe it was coyotes devouring a deer. I went on my belly, and that's when I come across what I seen, which was Clarence Hamlin, dressed like a Secesh Indian and a pack of coyotes under a clump of scar oaks, sir. He was waving a stick at them and yipping like he was one of them. Yip, yip, yip. Rather spooked me. Then I saw him bend down, fixing to pluck up firewood or some such. But it was an arm. And then I seen it was attached to a body. And then I seen other bodies. Judge, Where were the bodies? All about his feet, sir, scattered, maybe a dozen of them. There were 8 dead. We have their names, if you say so. I tried to figure it out like this. Here's these bodies, and these coyotes, and Clarence Hamlin with his stick and yipping, so Clarence Hamlin, whom you did not yet know to be Clarence Hamlin, but with whom you would later, I take it, have some familiarity. That's right, sir. At that time, I known him for a man with a droop eye in a sea-chest outfit, who I thought I might have seen before on the road near Camp Verde. So I figured the coyotes was trying to feast on the bodies, and Mr. Hamlin was scaring them off. But what was the bodies doing there? Then I seen him take an object from the jacket of one of them on the ground. He took from another one. He was looting the dead, sir. Going from pocket to pocket. I figured if he should see me witness him, he would come after me. At one point, I got a good look at him. His gaze was idly fixed, and he had a droopy eye. A harsh stare. When I seen that, I ran. Tell me about your subsequent encounters with this man. Well, that's a long story. He wanted to do me in, me and my sister both. He wanted to kill you? Because of what you had witnessed? Oh, no, sir, because of a thing that happened later. I'd rather not be made to speak of it if that's an option. That set the hook, and the judge took the bait. It is not an option, Benjamin. Why did he want to kill you? Well, sir, it's account of my sister had shot his finger. Shot his finger? Shot it clean off? Gentlemen, hold your amusement. The boy will explain. Benjamin, will you recount the circumstances? Well, sometime after what I seen him on the Julian, my sister and me was sitting in a tree with a goat staked out on the ground to entice a panther. It was my sister's wish to kill the panther, but Mr. Hamlin got himself in her aim. She shot him by accident? No, he provoked her. He was hollering and advancing, so she shot at him, and rightly so, if you ask me, though I did not think so at the time. She wanted him to stop stabbing a broken down camel. It was tired of walking. It made loud and fearful noises whilst being stabbed, sir, and fell to its knees, a monstrous end for a beast come all the way from Egypt. My sister would not sit still for it, and being as she was in a tree and had a pistol, and the panther we was after had not come himself to get himself shot, it was a poor time and place for Mr. Hamlin to be stabbing the creature in such a way. She yelled at him to stop, and so he started coming for us. I will give you the short of it. Is that what you want? My sister, I'm afraid we don't have time even for the short of it at the moment. The judge could not decide whether this question and answer approach was providing a deficit or a surplus of information. He finally asked if Ben could write efficiently. I have read twice the whole book of The Whale about Moby Dick and 3 other books. They was all given to me by the Yankee prisoners imprisoned down in the canyon. I tossed them an ear of corn one day. I felt sorry for them, and up come the whale. And the next day, the judge cuts him off. He decides that Ben can mail testimony in, still under oath, and receive questions by correspondence via the Comforts Post Office. You're going to hear a lot of names from around here. This is where it's set. Phew. This gets us out of the courtroom question and answer session, voir dire, and into a great way to tell the rest of the story. Each chapter we read starts with a Dear Judge letter of introduction, followed by Ben's testamentary letter. Ben starts with his background. Ma died after my birth. Years later, Pa was delivering logs when the wagon broke down. He broke down in tears. A man stopped to help him and took the logs in trade for Judah, the black maid he had with him. A couple of years later, half-sister Samantha was born. Judah was ornery, But Sam got it worse. The next letter introduces the evil, and that sets them on the path that leads to Hamlin and beyond. One day, Pa brought home a man who had a lot of lice. Judah made them leave in the middle of the night when she realized that. Sister got infested with lice and ran out to the stream before Judah could catch her to treat them with kerosene like she was doing to me. You run, I thought to myself. Hide out there and Judah can't catch you. And then I seen a creature running low to the ground and moving so fast I could not make out what it was. It went directly at Samantha from off to the right, where we kept 8 goats in a pen. It come into my line of sight in a flash of yellow-brown color with a long tail, crossing our bare patch of yard, just under the scoop of the moon. I had no time to think of what it might be before it was on Samantha. It was bigger than I can even say. It covered her fully up. One minute her shape was there, and the next it was not to be seen. All I made out was the long shape of the beast, as if it had swallowed her up. It did not make a sound, nor did Samantha. In the midst of the quiet, it come to me what sort of beast this must be, although I was not thinking about much of what to call it. I got to my feet in haste and was out the door. I do not recall that I thought what I would do, but the question arose in me as I drove closer. I'd like to tell you I leapt on the cat and forestalled it, and yet it was not me that done it. But Judah, she run faster and passed me. What happened next was loud. Judah threw herself down on the cat like she was a rug laid over it. She was plenty big, but the cat was bigger. It yowled and roared. Judah latched herself onto it and swung at it with a hatchet she got from the door. By the door. It was not a big hatchet, it was her chicken chopper. She shrieked in a manner that I did not know she could, laying it on the panther. But the panther was hard to keep hold of. Judah got her arms around its throat and tried to drag it off Samantha. I thought if she did not hack it to death, then she was bound to strangle the critter. It made fierce noises, and the struggle was such a frenzy of twisting and turning I could not tell what was Judah and what was the cat. I was not sure that Samantha was still a part of it. As she was flat on the ground and could not be seen. After a time of terrible struggle, Judah flipped the cat on its back, and Samantha rose up and ran for a tree close by. I have heard that when a cat got its eye on a prey, it will settle for nothing else. It wants only to kill what it set its heart on. In this case, that was Samantha. Judah hung on to the neck and all but rode on its back, but it continued after Samantha. The tree Samantha climbed was an old pecan tree. The panther got halfway up after her, whilst Judah hacked and pulled at its hind end and chopped at its paws. Judah's screaming was a racket. I run to the house to get my father's rifle. It was an old caplock with a short stock. It took me a minute to load it and get back out the door. When I was out there, I seen the panther had ceased going up the tree and was on the ground on top of Judah. She was on her back, and the panther's teeth was sucking her throat. Its jaws were squeezing down hard. It was a terrible sight to behold, as you could see the death coming over her. She had nearly lost her hold on the hatchet, but was trying to hit the panther with it. But a hatchet used to chop chickens was not handy against a beast such as that, which got her down on the ground. I fired, but did not hit the panther. It did not so much as look around for the sound. Judah made fearsome noises, and then she moved no more. The panther got off her and sunk its claws in the trunk of the tree and headed for Samantha again. Samantha screeched at me, "Shoot it, shoot it!" But I had already spent my ball and could not do so. Therefore I advanced and took a whack at the cat with the butt of my rifle and hit it squarely on the back with a thud as it went up from the tree. I jabbed at it with the barrel. It hissed and yowled and swiped at me, but kept on going after Samantha. Its hair stood on end. I seen Judah there at my feet. Her dress tore up, skin ripped up, her throat a horrible mess, one of her eyes hanging out of the socket. I had to watch for fear that I would tread on her body. Judah had done a good bit of damage to the cat. 2 toes of the right hind paw was chopped clean off and missing. I struck with the rifle, and Samantha jabbed with the stick till the panther backed down the tree. At which time I thought we might win the fight yet. However, the panther did not flee. When it was on the ground, it turned and looked at me straight with the shine of yellow in its eyes. The smell of it was mixed with the smell of the kerosene smelling my hair. The panther's whole face went up in a snarl, and I seen the fangs. Its whiskers was long and spread out, and its ears was flat to its head. Its head looked twice or more the size of my own. Judah lost her life, saving Sam, and the panther lost 2 toes to Judah's little chicken chopping hatchet. After the panther left, they dragged Judah's body back to the cabin. To stop Sam's ravaged head and face from bleeding, Ben dumps their whole bucket of flour over her, and they wait for Pa to return. Pa was never the same, didn't live long after this. Meanwhile, Sister Sam sinks into obsessive hate for the beast and tries to bait it to return. And years later, when it does, they set out to hunt for it. During this hunt, they encounter Clarence Hamlin's bestiality, stabbing his camel over its unwillingness to be pushed further that day. Ben recognizes him as the man he had seen years before, robbing hanged prisoners. Okay, we're finally back to the pertinent testimony for the trial. But a good storyteller knows life and evil are not so simple, open and shut. And this one probes deeper into parallel motivations and relationships of good and bad people and beasts as they pursue the infamous panther they seek that has since spread horror across South Texas and Mexico. Sam spends years waiting and baiting for the panther to come back. When it does, Ben and Sam set themselves up in a tree, baiting for a goat and waiting for the panther. A well-heeled Mexican shows up and fusses about an old Indian's grave nearby. And then here's where Hanlon shows up, leading a woman in a dress and beating his worn-out camel. He questions the Mexican passing by about his fine horse, but lets him go and resumes beating his camel, upsetting Sam, who's up in a tree with a pistol. She's in a tree with a pistol. Ben's in a tree with a bucket of rocks. But she yells, "Stop that!" from behind the branches. Hamlin comes at them with his own gun, shooting at the branches. I believe I knew Sam would pull the trigger even before she'd done so. It was her nature to do it. However, I did not know she would do as fast as she'd done it. Me and Clarence Hamlin both was taken by surprise when the pistol went off. One minute I was pitching rocks at him, and the next I had my mouth hanging open in wonderment as Clarence Hamlin yelled fiercely. His pistol flew out of his hand. His hand went up in the air, and his finger went in another direction from the pistol. "You shot me! You shot me!" he shouted. She hollered, "I could have killed him! I could have killed him! I could have shot him in the face!" Not necessarily a good thing to say right then. I figured she meant Clarence Hamlin, but when it comes to me, she was back on the panther and meant she could have killed the panther the night before had I not doubted the powder and made her hold off. It was surely not a good thing to say, further enraging Hamlin. Ben climbs down trying to get Hamlin's pistol, but ends up wrestling with a man prisoner who's in a dress, and Hamlin gets the drop on them, although he's not sure which hand to use to hold his gun. The Mexican returns and saves the day. His name is Lorenzo Pacheco. Later, he actually saves the search when he offers the key to tracking down this now famous panther with 2 toes chopped off. El Dominio de los Dodos, the demon of 2 toes. I'm not going to tell you the ending. This amazing panther maze pops up on a regular basis between every chapter. Turns out there's 13 of them. That sounds like it's on purpose. You can see the characters and possibly untangle who's who all through it. There's Ben. He's kind of calm on the side, wearing his hat. And there's, of course, the beast, who forms just a regular maze around all of them. There's Hamlin, who's ready to shoot anything. Chickens, just beneath the neck of the beast. There's chickens everywhere, making lots of noise, along with squealing goats. Sam is kind of in the middle of it all. And down below are a couple other characters who show up to help find the Demino de los Dos Dios. And in their search, they come across a real decision point, and they have to say a prayer. Should we go on, or should we give up? Now, as you look at this, this brings the bad luck of the panther's circuitous path. There's Ben at the start. The whole thing is a story of linkages and parallels, intertwining all the characters like this maze. For instance, Ben and Sam's story parallels Moby Dick, the whale about which Ben read in his first book, about who took Ahab's leg for hurting him, leading to Ahab's compulsive searching, ready to sacrifice all hands for revenge. El Demonio de los Dedos. The murdersome panther becomes Moby Dick, and Sam becomes Ahab with a beastly revenge. She's ready to protect innocent critters, though, from the likes of Clarence Hamlin, a reprobate villain, hunting and hanging those that he defines as traitors. He's as vengeful a killer as the prowling panther. He also draws Sam's fiery hour for the cruelty. Ironically, Hamlin's father is Pastor Dobb. At this same scene, where they are fighting the panther, or trying to fight the panther, they don't get the panther, but Hamlin kind of shows up at a bad point, beating up on that poor camel. A Mexican shows up, who Hamlin tries to interview and arrest, but he doesn't. He gets the drop on them when Hamlin gets the gun on them again. He realizes that this woman that Hamlin's been driving along with him is not really a woman, it's a man he's put in a dress. At one point, he says he's got the drop on all of them before Hamlin does his worst. He says, "Okay, little girl, look up at the sky." "Why is that?" "Because we're going to have two men unclothed." And so he makes Hamlin put the dress on. The other guy puts on Hamlin's clothes and gets to leave. They keep on and they keep on, and I've got to read Moby Dick again, because I think I'm probably going to see parts of it and say, this, she's going for this part, and she's going for that part. It seems like there's just all about violence and all about that. But at a certain point, this same Mexican is the key to the whole rest of the book. For he knows a fellow named Preacher Dobb who has a panther tracking dog. Ironically, Preacher Dobb is Hamlin's father, which seems to not make any sense. But you can just see, he talks about him and he's bad seed. So there are just so many interplaces and interlacings. And I don't want to tell you the whole story because I want you to read the book. This was probably one of my favorite ones to review. You're going to like it. And Robert Duvall did too. He's already bought rights to the book for movie production. All of this happening in the Hill Country is written by Elizabeth Crook. Her great-grandfather was Howard Butt. So she has all kinds of linkages and ties to this area of the world. Interestingly enough, Patrice is related somewhat to the Butts
Butt
family.
My
Because-
great-grandmother was married to a fellow named Butt.
She was married to a fellow named Butt, and then when he died, she married his son, his nephew, Fox. So she was Beulah Butt Fox.
Beulah Martin.
Beulah Martin Butt Fox. It's good it wasn't the other way around. But anyhow. And she died in Patrice's bedroom,
My great-grandmother,
that great-grandmother.
when I was about 3 or 4.
When you're about 3 or 4, you remember going in and holding her hand. And she stayed in that bedroom until I'm living there now, and so we're in the master bedroom. This is a wonderful book. It's powerful, powerful statement about good and evil, and it's a powerful statement about the overlaps and the relationships that people have, and how no matter how hard you try, people may go wrong or things may go wrong. And I found it to be a real inspiration. I loved the idea that she put it together of being letters. I was reading the first part and this testimony back and forth, and I was thinking, sounds like Perry Mason or something. And I was thinking, my parents always used to watch that, say, P. Mason, let's go watch that. I kind of started to feel sorry for Mr. Berger because he always lost. It reminded me, too, of Ben. In several cases in the book, we find he is not a crack shot. He misses at very bad times. He doesn't trust his gun because they don't have gunpowder, but you can make something with the stuff that comes out of bats. They called it bat shat, to be gunpowder. And you're not sure if it's going to work or not, or how hard it's going to work. And that's why she yells, I could have done it. I could have shot that panther. And at a certain point, you're reading it, some of the afterward parts, that he's got glasses. And when he got his glasses, suddenly the whole world came clear, and he knew why he couldn't shoot. Which ties in with me, because when I was in the 2nd grade, somebody figured out I needed glasses. And when I got glasses, suddenly I got 10 times smarter. Any thoughts, questions? If somebody who's read it, like to have something, Robert?
Well, we got a nice flavor of the panorama of different things about our interesting part of the country. I mean, mentioning those camels, of course, that's a historical thing. That they had camels and tried to introduce camels. But such an odd thing to have all these things. The judge is worried about getting these Confederate, they're finding these people that murdered, I guess they were Yankee prisoners that were held at Camp Verde by Confederates, during the Civil War. I think that's, if I recall.
It's Yankee prisoners, and then other people that didn't want to be that. German settlers had come over to escape stuff in Germany, and here they are with this happening.
Yeah, the area is particularly noteworthy, because it did have, anti-slave sentiment people, and if I'm not getting this all garbled up, but I think the free thinkers, so-called free thinkers, were related to, one of the aspects of free thinkers was they didn't believe in slavery, but they also were considered themselves intelligentsia, and they lived around comfort and see, all these, the neat part of our country, you know, the Camp Verde is a little tiny little place, wide place in the road. If you take the shortcut from Bandera to Kerrville, rather than staying winding through Medina and going around the back way on Texas 16, if you go with the straight shots, you go through Camp Verde. And I didn't realize the significance of Camp Verde. It had been a camp, and it was actually a Confederate camp for a while. And then, of course, the Confederate control didn't last that long. But I wasn't familiar with the term "sesesh." You know that you know the secessionists to refer to Confederates. But
I always thought Confederates were secessionists.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
well, yeah. But, the term secede,
Secession is
the
Indian.
political issue back then was whether to secede or not, and there were people around that area that did not want to secede, and there were plenty of people in the state that didn't want to secede, but, you know, with the preponderance of the political control, we did secede. In fact, one of the earliest ones to secede. So, but it was, I wanted to bring up, there's a matter of race. I mean, this Judah person was a slave, I believe, and she was, I forget whether she was, what color out of darkness, whether she was a mulatto or what, but.
I feel like she was black, and then her daughter was mulatto.
Yeah, but, so Samantha is actually her daughter, is that?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know whether you mentioned that.
I was kind of subtle about that, but
Well,
Samantha did come along, wasn't anybody else around.
so they're actually stepbrother, because Samantha's not the mother of, what's the other fellow's name?
It's a half-brother.
Half-brother.
Yeah, he's half-brother, yeah, they have the
He's
same
a father.
father, but not the same mother. But, so, this panther has killed her mother, you know, and wounded her. You didn't mention the severe disfigurement. I mean, she was badly scarred. I mean, so
She hates anybody to ever look at her. She's always by herself.
Yeah, well, she had every reason to have this fixation, obsession with getting the pound panther or whatever it was, you know, lion. So anyway, but just all these different issues: camels, racism, Civil War, you know, and then our own very interesting neighborhood hill country. It's all the stuff of great, you know, local interest and storytelling. And I'm delighted to hear they're planning to make a movie of it, because it'll be a terrific movie, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking, you know, sounds like an old lonesome dove kind of fare.
But you know, what gets lost in the story is, what about the prosecution of these people that are grave, this fellow that's grave robbing, and whatever happens to him? I mean, I read the book, and
You kept looking for the denouement that tells about it.
You feel like a judge. Well, what about this guy? What's going to happen there? And it's just completely sidetracked on this completely absorbing story about the panther with two toes. You know, the demon with two toes.
It's too bad they didn't at least somewhere say, and we nailed him. Now, let's talk about what happens later on, and when people try to go back and figure out whatever came of her and whatever came of the panther. It does tell that.
I was just at Camp Verde yesterday, so I kind
Oh.
of, the whole area was kind of fun. And they
Watch out for panthers.
But the fact that they actually had 100 camels there at one point at the end of the Civil War, that was really something. But when you think of that area, and then we have had these rains here, so now that kind of, I thought about the rivers there and how it flooded and all the story, what was happening to them during these rains and so on. So, and they were so poor. I mean, we realized way back in Texas, that these kids were orphans, and there they were, just way out there all by themselves, not knowing where their next meal was coming from.
Yeah.
It was really fascinating book.
Gave you a feel for all of that.
Yeah, the poorness, how poor the people were.
And so much around here is so flat, you can collect a whole bunch of water and then funnel it right through one spot and wash everything away.
Yeah. Interesting.
I was like, one more chapter and I have to go to sleep. I just, well, grab the whole thing and I
Yeah.
just didn't want to turn loose.
I was starting and saying, Perry Mason's more fun, or something, this is back and forth, but not really. But I just thought, she said that when she was trying to think about it, when she got Ben's voice, suddenly it worked. And suddenly she just started writing, and it came to her. And she'd write a chapter, and didn't know what was gonna happen next. And then after a while, it'd get in her head, and she'd write another chapter. So it just kind of grew organically out of her angst and her research and everything else. Which is a great, interesting way to write the book, but I just thought, it felt like it was a letter to me, and that I was the judge, and trying to just tell me all this stuff. And I've never had a book sound like it's
Talking.
written to me. I think that really ties you into it. Anything else?
I just think it was amazing how she kept Ben's voice for all the letters. And I know that I was reading it and talked to my daughter about it, and she read it, and then she recommended to her friends too. And we were just like, I wonder how the author was after she wrote the chapter. Could she go back to speaking, you know, just like she always did? Because that's really hard to write in such vernacular.
I think when somebody's in the midst of that, they may be a monomaniac for a while and have to think about that or talk about it all the time, or they may have to just totally put it aside. And she probably did both in between chapters. But to me, that's an interesting way to write it, and it was fun having, that she was writing it to me. I was the judge.
Well, another aspect of it is, what, and I've forgotten the name, but the name of the exceptional, heroic Mexican guy that is, and I forget his name.
El Pacheco.
Pacheco, well, he's almost supernaturally skilled and able to do things, you know, and so not only is there the cultivation of sympathy for the ex-slave and the fact that she sacrificed her life, you know, trying to defend the place, but then there's this Hispanic element, you know, that it's kind of an undoing of the disrespect towards Mexicans and Hispanics by casting this particular guy as the outstanding, really, hero of the story,
Yeah.
the one that's able to kind of do it all and just have amazing ability to save and
And
help.
all the way through there, he's talking about the Mexican for a while, and then after a while, you can just tell he's gained a ton of respect.
Yeah, yeah,
And he
yeah.
says, Mr. Pacheco. It changes him, and that's what's exciting, is to see how people are changed by what happens to them, and then think in your own life, are you being changed by what happens in you, or are you staying the same?
Well, thank you, Bill. It's just a wonderful review. Please help me thank Bill.